journey from one CEFTA economy to another. Our moderator, Edna Karaja, the Seed Plus project manager, will act as our narrator, guiding us through the process and calling on our expert panelists at each step. Edna, please.
Thank you. Good afternoon. Mirdita, dobar dan. It is my pleasure to be moderator at today's panel, where we are going to walk you through the real journey of exporting honey from Skopje to Pristina. We will also look at how the initiatives like seed and traces and tea are making trade smoother, more predictable, and faster. At the end, we'll also look how we go toward fully paperless trade, where the only paper required for this lovely honey from Skopje to Pristina will be the sticker on the honey. For this, in order to guide you through this journey of the honey, I invite my dear panelists and experts to guide us through the journey. Mate Georgievski, desk officer in charge of transport facilitation from Transport Community Secretariat. Pavel Šľachov, manager at Rescom, honey producer. Ljubčo Celevski, advisor in Department for Inspection in Veterinary Public Health from North Macedonia. Bayram Cakici, head of system and support at Sikuda from Customs Administration of Kosovo. And Flamur Kadriu, Director of the Public Health Directorate, Food and Veterinary Agency of Kosovo. Thank you for joining me on this panel. And before we start, let's see what audience thinks. Let's open the poll question. What do you think, how many steps are involved in training honey from Skopje to Pristina? Please, colleagues, connect. QR code is there, and let's vote. Okay, let's see the poll results. 3 to 5 steps, the most answer. I'm afraid I'll have to disappoint you. We have more than 12 steps in bringing this honey from Skopje to Pristina. And we will now, my dear panelists, will walk you through all of these steps. So, Mate, let's start with you. Before even having honey, what do we need? We need a truck, we need a transporter, we need a driver. Okay, what kind of procedure and documents do we need for this to move the honey from one place to another?
Thank you, Edna. Thank you for this really interesting session. I hope we'll keep the interest of the audience. And I hope that at the end, the transport documents will not be the highest in number and causing barriers for exporting from, in this case, North Macedonia to Kosovo. But I believe that what I will say is basically general for the transport carriers. In this case, a transport carrier or a transport company to be able to perform transport operations needs to be registered in North Macedonia according to the law for road transport. And for the registration of a company in the central register as a basic deposit, it is necessary to have the approximate amount of 9,000 euro for the first truck unit and 5,000 euro for each subsequent truck unit. Then a license. So as soon as the company is registered, it needs to get a license for international transport of goods, and there is prescribed documents, requirements, and necessary templates for the company, the manager, the driver, as well as the vehicles that are submitted to the Ministry of Transport as a competent institution. The Ministry of Transport, as a competent body, checks the accuracy and authenticity of the documents, on the basis of which it issues a license for international carriage of goods. This document is kept in the trading company in original. In addition to that, a copy of the license for the freight vehicle, for which it has been submitted, is basically kept in the vehicle, and it is shown as a proof when control is needed during the international transport. So if these required documents are submitted fully and correctly, then the issuing is approximately 7 working days. That is on the side of the transport company. For the driver, so for drivers who drive a cargo vehicle, heavy good vehicle, in the international transport, it is needed to have a certificate of professional competence for a driver. A certificate of professional competence of a driver for participation in international transport of goods and passengers as well is obtained again through the Ministry of Transport upon passing an exam. The third document needed for this type of carriage is CMR. This is according to the Convention on the Contract for International Carriage of Goods by Road. The CMR note is a standard document used for international road haulage, basically serves as a contract between the sender and the carrier, specifying liabilities for damages, loss, or delay of the goods. Now, what is, I would say, an advantage in this case study is that the pair of countries basically do not exchange permits, transport permits. So basically, Kosovo and North Macedonia have liberalized bilateral road transport, even though not in an official bilateral agreement, yet it is performed not under the regime of permits. And another positive thing is that also Kosovo and North Macedonia just recently established one-stop control on the BCP Hani and Lezit, Blace, which I believe is the path of the honey to reach from Skopje to Pristina. This is more of an interest for the passenger vehicles, but nevertheless, I believe also that the trucks are only controlled once by the border police in terms of document checks. Just to add, and I will finish with that, it will serve as a good barrier removal or a redundancy of the procedure removal if, for example, the two parties can recognize, because also recognition was the topic in the previous panels, to recognize the weighing certificate. So the certificates that weigh the trucks. So basically that one party also recognize when the weighing is completed on the other side. The same process would be if also Kosovo exports to North Macedonia, honey or whatever. Thank you.
Thank you, Mate. It looks quite complex to me, but I'm glad to hear that there are already some trade facilitation measures in place, as you rightly explained. But let's move now to Pavel. He's producing honey. So what do you need to do? And it seems to me a lot, but walk us through the steps in order for this honey to bring it to Pristina.
So first, good afternoon to all. It's a pleasure for me to be in this CEFTA event and among such esteemed guests all around me. So for me, it's an honor to be in a position to give the perspective of exporting honey in this situation from North Macedonia to Kosovo. So everything needs to start with the fully functioning facility that has completely aligned with the standards that the state has given us, and almost everything is getting closer to EU standards by the day. So everything is moving in that direction. So after we have all that documentation and all that facility improvements, we need to start with the documentation. So first of all, with internal documents such as invoices and packing list. After that, we need to issue a declaration of origin and where the goods are produced. In our cases, at our facility, this is used to get the Euro 1 certificate. That is pretty much essential documents if you want to trade not just with European Union but in CEFTA also. After that, we are inviting the veterinary inspector, veterinary doctor in our premises to inspect not just the goods and the documents, but they need to see the lots, the quantity, the labels, and if everything is okay, we start with digital now, very fortunately with digital veterinary certificate. And when we finish everything, we do the sanitation of the truck. We need to sanitize the truck, and after that we load everything on the truck and we send all the documents to the broker that applicate everything to the custom offices in Macedonia, North Macedonia and Kosovo.
Yeah, a lot of steps, I would say. And one of them is, as you said, is the applications for the issuance of veterinary health certificate. So, Lupce, when you receive this application from an exporter, what do your inspectors do in order to issue a requested health certificate?
Good afternoon to all. I would like to express my gratitude for the invitation to this panel and the vision that CEFTA has for facilitating trade within the CEFTA parties. Regarding your question, I would start with the application itself for approval of honey packaging facility. The Food Veterinary Agency approved the facility if it meets all legal and regulatory requirements, and upon request of the operator, issues guarantees for export to third countries, including CEFTA and EU countries. Upon request of the food business operator for export to a certain country, in this case to Kosovo, the operator filled out the first page in the CEFTA Tracy Senti system, where is located the basic data necessary for export to be realized. The official veterinarian reviews all application and all documentation such invoice, packing list, means of transport, product labeling, etc. After which inspector conduct on-site inspection of honey establishment and performs a physical inspection of the production area and the packaging, labeling, and fulfillment of the condition of means of transport. If all these conditions are met, the official veterinarian fills the second page in the certificate in the CEFTA Tracy Senti system, where he gives a certain guarantees for the product and issues a veterinary health certificate. When the certificate is validated in the system and printed from, official veterinarian certified with a signature stamp and facsimile, and thus the shipment is ready for export. The food business operator is given a copy of the confirmed certificates, and thus all formalities in the part of Food Veterinary Agency are for export are completed.
Thank you so much. And now we come to customs. So, Bayram, what is required by customs? What does Pavel or his broker also need to do? And please refer to both sides, what the customs do on the export side at Blace, but also what do you do on the entry side at Hani and Elazit?
Thank you, Edna. Macedonian side, or North Macedonian officer, they confirmed the export declaration at the border Blace. From the customs perspective, the most important improvement what we see in this process in SEED is the contribution of SEED to pre-arrival information and the automated comparison of the data at the border. Simply, when the truck arrives in the border point in Hani Elazit, our officer receives before that the data in the SEED system for the export declaration from Macedonian. The system performs an automatic real-time comparison between data submitted from North Macedonia and what is presented in the Kosovo. This immediate result shows the customs officers whether all information are consistent or is need for further verification. If the seed comparison is clean and no risk profiles are triggered, the customs officer allows the trucks to the inland terminals. If there is a mismatch, the officer can focus precisely attention where the risk is, which makes controls more targeted and efficient. Once the consignment reaches the inland clearance office, here the full declaration takes place. Customs applies its risk management system and acts according to the assigned risk channel, while in parallel, the food veterinary inspectors conduct its mandatory documentary or physical checks for the same goods. A very important things that we can mention here is a very good cooperation that we have with Food Veterinary Agency, and lately we improved the new automation food veterinary system and ASICUDA, which we receive the data immediately when the certificate is issued from the inspectors. We receive the same data in the ASICUDA, and so we can, by the way, with our risk profiles for these goods that certificates are in place and match with our data, to immediately release the goods within green channel. In case there is a mismatch or missing data from the certificates by the system, then we can trigger the documentary check or physical check if it's needed. This step, what we did with FVA, reduce manual steps, avoids double data entry, and shortens the clearance times for the traders. Among all this, SEED gives us a better accuracy and predictability at the border, and the new FVA ASICUDA automation improves the final clearance steps. Together, they allow us to process goods faster while maintaining full control of the goods during the whole process. Thank you. This is myself.
Thank you so much, and we still haven't finished. I'm glad to hear that SEED has contributed to the facilitation of trade in between CEFTA parties and with that regard, but it's also, as you can see here on the presentation, that most of the controls are actually happening at the inland customs office, which basically contributes that the total processing time that we measure through SEED is also quite significantly lower in this case scenario. But this is not finished yet. Flamur, what does Pavel and his broker or his broker need to do now to place this honey from the inland office into the shelves of supermarket?
Sorry. We create an impression that it's really lots of steps. We should distinguish the requirements with the steps. Is much less steps than all mentioned here. Having certificate for the truck, we have to distinguish this one-time certificate and the certificates which you have in the steps from the load of the truck, from the importer to the producer to the shelves. So this is less steps than we mentioned here. Let me say, given the certificate from veterinary services in Macedonia, my colleague mentioned requirements that the operator has to fulfill before he got the certificate, but the step of having certificate in place is just one step. So after the consignment or goods arrived within the inland terminal, then now we have the system. Our inspectors see the veterinary certificate, which we agreed, we endorsed the certificate between the CEFTA parties, and now we have the certificate, the common certificate for all authorities, and we, as a pre-notification inspector, can check the goods, the conditions of the goods in the certificate before the consignment arrives. So this is one good step and step looking forward. Before, it was used to have a paper certificate in the office, and then he will have to check. Now, I can extend the steps, like saying that the inspector checking the certificate. He has the right to see physically consignment, and he checks for labeling. He checks for the condition of the truck, condition of the load. These are not steps. This is one step still. So he checks the load, he checks the certificate. This is a single step. And then he can issue, after he finds the good is all right, he signs the CHED, he signs the common entry document, which allows the consignment to get in. So this is the only steps that veterinary agency has in place, the veterinary inspector. So the information now goes back to the customs, and then they release the load for the consignment.
Thank you so much. Yes, yeah.
Simple than
Yeah,
it looks.
exactly. And then actually it goes back to customs, as you said, where the customs officer verifies export declaration, and then and the CHED, and the shipment is cleared for the market. That would be all for the journey of this honey. But let's see basically what did we do and what we can still do in order to make this journey of the honey as swift as possible. Let's go back to customs. Bayram, you already mentioned how SEED has already improved processes with receiving pre-arrival messages. And what do you think? What we can do further to facilitate trade? Because there's been mentioning of digitalization throughout today's conference. So how can we help further to trader for Pavel, that he spends as less time as possible for these formalities?
Okay. Again, here in customs, SEED has become one of the most important tools of our crossing points. The biggest values comes from the electronic pre-arrival notification that we receive through this system. Because we receive all export data from the partner administration before the truck reaches the border, we can perform an automatic comparison immediately when the goods are presented. This provides us two major benefits. One of them is faster and more predictable clearance for traders, and the second one, better planning, risk management, and operational decision making. For the faster and more predictable, we can use the time release study conducted with the World Bank using WCO standards clearly shows the impacts. Time release study made in 2016 shows us that waiting time for registration per a truck in the BCP, it was around 6 minutes per truck. And the same study was made on 2022, which shows us that the same waiting time for the registration, it was around 3 minutes per truck. So this is a decrease of 50% in the waiting time. SEED, together with other improvements that we done at the border, has played an important role achieving these results. Also for better planning, because the customs receives information before the truck arrives, we can make that, we know that what goods are coming, from where goods are coming, what is the expected workload for that particular BCP, and what are the potential risks on these goods. This support more efficient deployment of staff and more consistent application of risk profiles. Also, one point that we can mention is stronger integrity and protection of the foreign trade regime. SEED ensures us that the data exchange between CEFTA parties is secured and cannot be altered by any actor once it's transmitted through the system. This protects the integrity of the foreign trade regime by preventing manipulation of K data, improving accountability, helping detect under-ovulation or smuggling attempts, and ensuring us equal treatment of all traders. A key future benefits of enhanced real-time data exchange through SEED will be the automatic transmission of SPSS certificates directly through the SEED in our systems. If it is this possible in the future to exchange the data about the certificates, we can use them directly in our Archikuda system, for example, and then to release the goods immediately when they are processed in the terminals. As a result, customs can release the consignment automatically on the condition all conditions are met, reducing duplication of information, preventing data manipulation, and significantly speeding up the whole clearance process. In short terms, real-time SPSS data and automatic feeding custom system will be much faster, safer, and fully predictable release. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I'm very, very glad to hear how SEED is facilitating trade. And I don't know if audience knows, but SEED, the data exchange of customs data through SEED was established already in 2010, and this mechanism was actually used during the COVID time to facilitate clearance and faster processing of essential goods. This initiative at that time, called Green Lanes, expanded, and everyone was mentioning today green lanes, but it's not anymore just about clearance of the essential goods. We moved to clearance of perishable goods recently, but it's much more beside only that. Mate, could you please also explain us what does it entail now, how we expanded, and what are the plans toward the EU?
Thank you. So thank you. I'll try to briefly say what our initiative, joint initiative, stands for. So basically, it is, as you rightly pointed out, Edna, it is about all these processes and documents that we saw just now, how to put them in one, under one umbrella, to bring them together and to create the platform for genuine transport and trade facilitation. So we would like to see Green Lanes initiative as a real instrument to basically all the processes that are carried out by transport community and CEFTA are driven further, and an added value is given just by the fact that two regional organizations are guiding that process. So it is an initiative by the region for the region. We are in the implementation of the Green Lanes. Basically, we are guided by a so-called comprehensive roadmap. This comprehensive roadmap stands for enhancing, extending, and modernizing. So we enhance the cooperation and the Green Lanes within the Western Balkans. It has been mentioned by you and also by the previous speakers of all these steps needed for recognition of the authorized economic operators, risk assessment, NCTS, so basically everything that streamlines procedures and make the trade routes more efficient. That was enhancement. Extension is towards EU. So basically the idea is the SEED system, which was presented as a very, very beneficial and useful, that also can be extended to the neighboring EU member states and can provide pre-arrival information to their border authorities, customs, and other border agencies, so that basically the clearance procedure can be simplified. We have managed to make SEED as a useful tool and to extend the Green Lanes initiative towards a few neighboring parties. We expect that at the upcoming summit on 17th of December, also this will be extended between other pairs like Bulgaria, Serbia, Bulgaria, Macedonia, Albania, Greece, Italy, Serbia, and so on and so forth. And then the third pillar of the comprehensive roadmap is modernization of the crossing points, a very important one, because the upgrades of the crossing points must ensure that the infrastructure and technology, although on those BCPs, basically keep pace with the growing demands for trade. Every time we're witnessing more and more traffic volumes, which means enhanced trade, but then this requires new lanes, it requires specifically designed lanes for certain type of goods, it requires new way bridges, traffic management system, other digital tools like mobile scanners, and so on. So basically, the initiative gathers a lot of elements, and but it's not only, as I mentioned, a policy framework. We want to see it as that it delivers real impact, impact for boosting trade and attracting investments, because we know that 70% of the region's trade is with the EU. That it also keeps the supply chains strong and resilient. And finally, that it empower regional cooperation. It was discussed in the opening session. I think this is one of those initiatives that really has fostered unprecedented collaboration and cooperation between all possible national authorities on all levels. So border agencies on local level, on national level, within the Western Balkans and also with the EU member states. That makes it basically creates a stronger and unified front for transport and trade facilitation. So we focus on modernization as of next year, hopefully with the help of the European Commission and the Safe and Sustainable Transport Program. Investments will be hopefully made possible on designated border crossing points. Basically, together jointly we have identified the infrastructure and the equipment needs for 16 crossing points on the entire trans-European transport network within the Western Balkans and ones with the EU member states. 10 of them are with the EU member states, 6 intra-CEFTA. And for all these BCPs, we have identified the needs. These are held in 2 brochures, one of these. I have left some copies at the entrance, and also another one produced by CEFTA. So with these basically infrastructure investments and coupled and paired with the soft measures such as we mentioned, harmonization of working hours, AEOs, and so on, the impact for the businesses and for the companies is expected to be higher. As you know, every single minute of waiting time costs nearly €2 per truck, or 26 million hours annually is spent at the borders. So we believe that with reducing waiting times, faster processing, less congestion, this will mean quicker deliveries and lower costs. Also for the truck drivers, because they spend 80% of their working time waiting at the borders, this will mean basically that they can stay on schedule. They can use reducing the idle time. So basically transport companies can save on fuel and on operational costs, and that will of course boost profitability and competitiveness. So to conclude, if all measures and elements of the Green Lanes initiatives are implemented on these selected 16 crossing points, it is expected that the reduction of the waiting time would be somewhere between 50 to 80%, depending on the BCP and on the measure. And also, it is expected that the reduction of this waiting time can generate gains equivalent to as much as 3% per capita GDP. And the trade effects will not be only felt in the Western Balkan region, but also in the neighboring EU member states. So first in Croatia, Bulgaria, Greece, Hungary, Romania, and even Slovenia. So this was according to the World Bank study. Let me conclude with that both CEFTA and TCT as partner organization in this, of course, remain very much committed to implement all the measures in the roadmap, and that we believe that the first results on the ground, as I mentioned, can be already visible next year if the national authorities use basically the funds that are now going to provide it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mate. Significant figures, significant saving, and we really hope that we'll start with implementing those with all the partners. And I think what is extremely important is that what you mentioned is the scope of the green lanes, which you mentioned just for intra-CEFTA was combined of something representatives of 45 different institutions, and now multiplying that with all neighboring EU member states can just showcase how extensive cooperation is represented when we talk about the green lanes. Moving now away from Seed Plus and customs to customs data exchange, there is another, I mean, Pavel mentioned, Flamur mentioned, digital initiative which supports veterinary and phytosanitary certificate exchange. It's CEFTA Traces NT. We have done an estimate study where basically passing from paperwork to usage to digital exchange of certificates has total savings of 8.56 euros per single veterinary health certificate for economic operators. Based on your experience, Pavel, how do you perceive that this electronic veterinary certificate reduce your administrative costs and processing time compared to the old paper certificate? And basically, what would you suggest us? How do we go further from here?
So, first of all, I want to tell everybody that the digitalization was done very professionally. We had such amazing support, and the transfer from the paper veterinary certificate, not just for CEFTA but also for you, to the electronical digital was very, very smooth, and I'm very glad for the veterinary agency and all the everybody that has been in that scope. How can I say, combined. So about the possibility to have digital veterinary certificate, not just the veterinary agency, veterinary inspectors at the border crossing and everywhere have immediately information about what will happen and what is happening, and this is, as Mate told, reduce the waiting time, and everything is coming more smoothly together, but completely erase the possibility of making mistakes, because you can adjust digitally the same veterinary certificate. If you can, sometimes there is punctuation, spelling mistakes. Sometimes there is some very small mistake that normally the other custom agency and the other veterinary agency cannot accept this veterinary certificate. But with this digitalization, there is a possibility to tweak everything and to be everything as it should be. So there is almost zero possibility for mistakes in this part. So I would be very happy if we see even more digitalization in this kind of papers. And I must, one more thing to tell, that truly there is no such complex steps for exporting. Everything seems very, very complicated, but everything is just with standards and everything just to be as it should be. So, yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much. I'm glad to hear how digitalization can help you and to hear actually from the business business perspective, how it helped you. And of course, I mean, we had to break down all these steps in order to make it interesting for the public. But obviously, we are all working here together with the businesses to reduce these steps and to make it really truly paperless. Now we've heard some savings and the advantages for the businesses, but the study that I mentioned earlier also showed that the introduction of CEFTA traces NT also showed significant time reduction required for inspectors to fill the certificate. So from usual 20 to 30 minutes to 5 minutes. This represents an efficiency gain of more than 70%. Ljubčo, in your daily workflow, how has this acceleration in certification changed the way you work? And can you suggest us any further improvements in this regard?
Thank you. And yes, I can agree with you that the CEFTA traces NT system has significantly facilitated the process of certification of products of animal origin. Before CEFTA traces system, even after the content of the certificate was mutually accepted between the countries, the practical introduction of that certificate into daily use was very slow and often unpredictable. Everything depends on manual printing, distribution forms, and coordination between local inspector and economic operators. This creates real risk that an operator might use an old, outdated version of a certificate simply because large quantities has been pre-printed earlier. We have all experienced cases when a new version was introduced, but company continues to use the old one. This caused seriously operational problems, including returns of consignments, delays at crossing points, and in some cases, even financial losses for operators, which could be significant. When CEFTA traces NT system was introduced, this part of the process has been transformed. Once the certificate content is agreed, exactly as before, the technical implementation with the system is extremely fast. The SIT Plus technical team has proven to be very efficient because in many cases, the new certificate model is available in just a few hours and almost always within a single working day. The responsiveness is a major improvement compared to the previous paper-based environment. Because the system is digital, inspector and operators immediately see and use the current valid version, and the probability of using an outdated model is reduced to almost zero. There is no risk of old pre-printed forms circulating or being used by mistake. This protects both the operator and administration, and it ensures consistency across the trade flows. So even though the agreement procedure for the content remains the same as before, the digital introduction through CEFTA traces make the entire process much faster, safer, and more reliable. In practical terms, this means smoother trade flows, fewer errors, and much higher trust that the certificate being issued is always the correct and the most recent one. The difference compared to the previous paper-based system is simply enormous. About the improvement of the system, I can say that next steps is using the system for issuing the chat certificates for entry into the CEFTA parties, and next step is to implement the using the paperless certificate in the system for all the CEFTA parties, and maybe even if you see the big picture, CEFTA traces NT can be used as a system for import from all third countries and from the world.
Thank you so much. That's really concrete, concrete proposal to use the same system for the import from the EU and other third parties. On the same line, Flamur talking about really paperless processes and the future. How can we really what do we need to do in order to make this e-certificate exchange, to make reuse of data across customs, phytosanitary, veterinary system, so that we really can make sure that the only paper required is this sticker here, please.
We have mentioned in Sarajevo 2 weeks ago, entering lots of data from parties, authorities, multi-annual control plans, measures that they take in, procedures that they do into express day compliance with EU regulation to the goods, which will be one of the benefits which authorities can share the data for the producers across the parties, so will easy up the controls then across the border. Very important to have fully digital systems, so less paper, it enables less mistakes, less frauds, better controls, faster controls, so movement of goods will be enabled to move faster as well. Costs, waiting cost and etc., everything will be reduced. So fully digital systems are really crucial in daily work and easier work of the inspectors as an agency is concerned to work faster. As a matter of fact, Food and Veterinary Agencies, Agency to 23rd, we launched our management system, food control management system, and we figured out that it's much easier to work when you have digital system in place. Inspectors are getting used to work more frequently with it, more controls, more data related to the operators. So the same data we can share among the authorities, so it's less than needs to be controlled, let me say, for the honey coming from Macedonia, when we know that our colleagues in Macedonia have performed the controls, the tests necessary for the commodity so they can move on. This could be one of the benefits. My colleague mentioned using Seed Plus for the goods coming from third countries. I had remarks to have data from EU traces and to have data during the import of the goods. All of the parties, they having lots of goods coming from EU. Perhaps having this system used for our authorities will be a step forward, joining in the single market. So won't be any harm having this system put in place within the Balkan countries. This is my...
Thank you so much, Flamur. Let's see actually now what audience thinks. Like, what do you think, what further improvement would create the greatest additional savings? This is the open-end question. You can put as many words, single words as you want, but please put what do you think that would be the greatest additional savings? Scan the QR code and enter the words, please. Whatever word first come to your mind. Any ideas? Any words? Okay, not many people voting. Okay, there is some people. Wait. Okay. Few words, you can put several words if you like. Whatever first cross your mind, what can improve and what can make additional savings. Okay, let's close the pool. Let's see the results. Okay, so that's what we've been talking a lot, I think, at this panel. I think the biggest work comes for digitalization, but I really hope that today we did show what we are doing in CEFTA in order to digitalize and make processes smoother, and what we plan to do to go toward fully paperless procedures. I would say that every improvement we make, every electronic certificate, every data exchange, every automated steps brings us actually closer to CEFTA, where the trade is faster, simpler, and more predictable for everyone, but in particular for businesses. And of course, none of this happens on its own. It's driven by the expertise, dedication, and day-to-day efforts of all of you working in customs, in the inspections, in the IT, and in the private sector. It's really collaborative work, as you could see from all of our panelists here. So thank you, and let us keep moving forward together and continue building CEFTA, where digital trade is not the exception but the norm. I would like to thank you for your participation in audience, and please big applause for our panelists.
Thank you to all the speakers for such a stimulating exchange. The insights shared today will certainly serve as a valuable input for our continued work. Our next session is an Oxford-style mini-debate that focuses on a truly critical, forward-looking question. Can CEFTA achieve single market-style program recognition in at least 3 industrial sectors by 2026? Is this ambition realistic within the next year, or are the structural and political challenges too great to overcome in this tight time frame? We're about to find out. We have 2 excellent speakers ready to argue opposing sides. This debate promises a lively clash of perspectives, emphasizing the urgency and feasibility of our integration goals. This debate will be moderated by Olivera Tseni Bardici, trade facilitation expert at the CEFTA Secretariat. First, let me introduce our debaters. Arguing the yes, it's achievable and underway side, Boguslav Gertruda, head of the Political, Economic and European Integration section at the EU office. And yes, please. And arguing the no, it's unlikely by 2026 side, Arieta Vulja Požegu, representing Kosovo Wood Association. Enjoy the debate.
Good afternoon, esteemed guests, colleagues. Welcome to this afternoon very short Oxford-style mini debate. I hope it's okay because my colleagues back there are reacting. So as We had this short introduction by the moderator. It will be a 30-minute, very short minute debate. We will be addressing one of the key, let's say, challenges in the CEFTA framework. And there is one question we would like all to address here today. We will be starting by a poll with the audience, very short. The answers will be yes or no, whether CEFTA can achieve a single market style program recognition in at least 3 sectors by 2026. I would kindly ask you to respond with yes or no. This is very short, but we will be showing the responses at a later stage. While I would now turn to my dear guests and panelists, I would like to start with Mr. Gertruda. So based on, so you'll be having a very, let's say, a challenging part, because you are to convince us that this is realistic to be achieved by 2026. So we will definitely not here today try to provide a definite judgment on this situation, but rather we would be very much looking forward to highlighting the opportunities, the risks, as well as to see how we can use this political momentum to move in this agenda forward. Mr. Gertruda, from the EU perspective, what concrete milestones in the CEFTA framework that have been achieved in the last 2 years can give you this confidence that the single market style recognition in at least 3 sectors is achievable by 2026?
Thank you very much. Good afternoon. Dobar dan, Mirdita. Thank you for this question. And indeed, I'm not in a very comfortable role, but I will still try to argue my point convincingly. And I will actually start with an unusual question. Why only 3 sectors? Because actually what we have here in the region in CEFTA are relatively small economies with differing comparative advantages, and if we want to build regionally interconnected value chains, if we want to build economies of scale, then just 3 sectors is probably not enough. We have to move across the board. But of course you will immediately correct me what we are debating here, not what is needed, but what is possible, feasible. And here I readily admit that moving towards building the right quality infrastructure, that achieving progress on single market style recognition is not easy. And there are many reasons for this. There are political, legal, technical obstacles, and it is an interplay of the right economic incentives as well as expertise and dedication of engaged experts, politicians on the one hand, and on the other hand, various vested interests, bureaucratic inertia. So having admitted that, you may be wondering what gives me reasons for optimism, and my answer in short is the steady progress that we have observed since 2024. And precisely in 24, a stalemate was broken, which had been observed for 3 previous years. It is precisely in 2024 that CEFTA Joint Committee started making decisions again, after previous decisions had been made in 2021. So one of these decisions actually paved the way for the Kosovo chairmanship in CEFTA. So that's how we are all here. But of course, there were also decisions more or less directly related to the topic of our debate today, such as the establishment of electronic system to facilitate risk management for trade in goods, recognition of programs for authorized economic operators, facilitation of electronic commerce, and another decision on inter-party parcel delivery services. Then the Joint Committee took further decisions this summer, including the appointment of CEFTA Executive Director here in the audience, as well as, again, a few decisions relevant for our topic, such as updating these decisions on programs for authorized economic operators, on electronic exchange of data concerning entry authorizations for groups of medicines containing controlled substances, so one of concrete sectors already, which I already mentioned here, and then on enhancing cooperation on trade-related statistics. And just yesterday, as I understand, the CEFTA Joint Committee took 4 further decisions, including one on the further update of recognition of authorized economic operators programs. So from this eagle's eye view, I propose now that we move to the grassroots level. And at this level, we deal not with the decision making, but with the implementation of these decisions. So we have projects which deal concretely with facilitating single market style recognition, and I'll mention just one of them, again with some colleagues here in the audience. And this is a single market academy. This is a project which started literally a few weeks ago and aims at training the relevant conformity assessment bodies in 3 pilot sectors: electrical products, machinery, and construction products. The 3 sectors which on which the Common Regional Market Program for the years 2025-28 puts emphasis. So to conclude this introduction, single market style recognition is not easy. The steps which I mentioned above, however, they are perhaps not as quick as we would have wished for, but they give good basis for further work. And these decisions have also contributing to accumulating the essential ingredient of further progress, namely trust. Trust mentioned by Director Valentina Superti this morning. And with this good basis, with further work of knowledgeable and dedicated partners, I am sure that decisive steps in this direction can be taken next year in 2026. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Gertruda. I must personally admit that I do fully support, and I'm also very optimistic towards this objective, but I would like to turn this debate to the other side. Madame Vula Pojegu, on the perspective of the business community, what are the challenges that still the business community faces that need to be overcome to allow this implementation and to allow this goal to be achievable by 2026?
Maybe this is a problem because we represent two subsectors who are furniture and product for construction, like doors, windows. In these subsectors, in many cases, we have problems with the certification. Because if you see our statistics and export, 90% of our production in export are oriented in EU market. So we export very easy in Switzerland, Germany, other country, but not in region. Especially these 2 years, we see the positivity in the CEFTA agreement because it's more easy for the company to export also in a region, because we see some positive result in this case, and because it's not necessary in customs to ask about the certification. The certification is necessary for the client, and if the client wants the CE mark and another fire protection or other certification, you need to adapt to the client, but not necessary to be in the border and certification and a lot of paper. So in our perspective, we believe to have a good cooperation and trade with the region because we have already so much export in European country. But in our perspective, maybe 2026, it's, I not believe so much in, because it's a lot of political and administrative rules. In this case, I think, like a Balkan, we will have some problems, I don't know.
Thank you very much, Madam Vula-Pojegu. Now I would like to kindly ask the colleagues to show on the screen the results of the poll. Yes, actually this is what we expected, and that's the reason why we didn't want to show firsthand the results. But having now these results shown on the screen, Mr. Gertruda, do you believe that the momentum that the EU growth plans created accelerates CEFTA path towards the recognition? And if so, because you already said, what are the arguments that support your optimism?
Thank you very much for this question. And indeed, I definitely think that the growth plan creates strong incentives for deeper regional integration, which is based on alignment with EU norms. And that's because it contains some incentives. It aims to prepare partners for EU membership first, that's the basic assumption, by delivering early access to some EU benefits before EU accession. That's called gradual integration. And its essential element is the reform agenda, and that includes deep reforms that align closely with both the objectives of CEFTA and of common regional market. So these reforms include such issues as enhanced support for conformity assessment bodies, as well as measures that indirectly reinforce these objectives such as improving the investment climate in strategic sector, supporting higher value-added production and innovation, and enhancing the export profile of strategic sectors. So the actions foreseen in the growth plan and in its components, they mirror commitments already embedded in common regional market and CEFTA, and they include financial incentives which add to the inherent incentives of enhanced trade and single market style recognition. So to give you example of our host here, Kosovo, that resulted already since the adoption of the growth plan by the European Commission in November 2023. This resulted in Kosovo fully endorsing and ratifying 7 CEFTA decisions on the facilitation of electronic commerce. Actually, many of these decisions which I mentioned in the introduction. So the dynamics is there and it's reinforced by the growth plan. Thank you.
Thank you. I will just briefly would like to ask you on your view. You have previously highlighted the 3 sectors that the CEFTA parties have selected for potential mutual recognition program in the area of quality infrastructure. We have selected LVD, EMC, machinery and construction sector, but based on the preconditions and the reality and the challenges that you just mentioned, what would be your perspective? Which of these sectors would be most realistic sectors to move forward for the CEFTA in regard to the recognition program?
a very tricky question, I have to admit, and I am sure that these three sectors were not chosen without a reason, and they certainly offer good, well, they represent a large chunk of trade, and second, they offer good potential for progress and for economic benefits. That said, you would have to ask experts in these fields how they feel about the perspectives. My feeling is that in each of these sectors we have good enough perspectives, not without difficulties, but good enough. And there are some other sectors, such as represented by my competitor here. But I also mentioned in the very beginning that we need progress across the board, and I maintain this point because one or two sectors are not enough. They need to build synergies among themselves. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Madam Vula-Pojegu, based on the inputs and the arguments provided by Mr. Gertruda, you have also highlighted some issues in terms of the implementation, and you also highlighted the lack of political commitment. So we would like to hear from you, in your perspective, what are the biggest gaps between the regulatory commitments on paper, the regulation paper itself, and the reality that it is experienced by the business community on the ground?
In this perspective, I think in many cases we have problems because all the time the politics change something, and especially in our region, happens every 3 or 4 years to change something. So it's not good because we need to be in that line with a European country, and we need to be stable in this case about all the rules what we have here to be already are present and in European market. So Europe now they wait to have a digital passport for product, and we still discuss about the free market for the region. And we need to prepare early to be ready for Europe. So all of us, like a region, we need to see in the future what the Europe wants, but not to disagree about the laboratory, about the testing product, certification, and all of this. Because in Kosovo, we export product, but all the products for construction are certified in Germany or other country, but not in region. And also the region need to recognize this certification and not to ask about another certification and another testing of the product, because you need to believe in that entity where you take that certification. So like a business, everybody wants to be free and to export and to have this trade agreement and to respect, because otherwise it's a problem if we change periodically or based in the years and you are not sure about the investors in the future in this region. What do you think, your competition?
Thank you very much. I would like once again to go back to the audience. Now we have an open question for you. So we would like to have your views based on what we heard from the speakers. What are the main obstacles to achieving the single market style recognition in CEFTA by 2026? Several aspects have already been mentioned by our speakers, our panelists, but 1-minute responses before we move to the very final reflections to conclude this mini debate. Let's wait for the poll. By waiting, I'm trying to stimulate responses. Okay, please, colleagues, perhaps let's show the results. Ah, okay. You saw it was very... Okay. Political will, recognition, trust in relevant agencies, harmonization of the legal framework, non-communication, cost of certification, capacity, market size, standardization, bureaucracy, competitive readiness. Most of the things have already been highlighted. I would like to be very direct on the last question to conclude. If not by 2026, including you, Mr. Gertruda, what is the timeline that you think would be the most realistic, and what needs to be changed in order for us to move towards that possible recognition by whenever you expect?
Thank you very much. And indeed, the replies which we see on the screen, they seem daunting. They seem terribly awe-inspiring. But we should not be afraid of making further progress. We should move in this direction, and I'm a great believer in incremental progress. Even if we cannot make brilliant breakthroughs, we need to work steadily towards the objectives which we have, and I believe that with this approach and with the goodwill of all sides and dedicated work of all partners at the top decision makers, then implementers, economic operators, conformity assessment bodies at the implementing level, we can manage to achieve this objective, if not in 2026, then a year or two afterwards. One more remark. I dared to call my partner in the debate a competitor, but I want to rectify this mistake by now stating that we should be partners in achieving this goal, and encourage you to work further, including in the dialogue with your both with your governments to unblock, to move further with the necessary decisions at the political level, and then to work with your members of your association at the grassroots level to work on achieving this at the implementing level with conformity assessment bodies and so on. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Back to you, Madame Vula, on the same question. When would it be realistic in your point of view? And I would like your reflections to be addressed to the policymakers as well. What needs to be changed to get there?
It's just the policymakers, but also like association, we advocate all the time about the problem, but that means it's not just in Kosovo, but you need to see another country what's happened. So I believe maybe 2-3 years can realize to have this single market, because we need to be ready for European market. And I'm happy to offer our experience and all our analysis about that, and to work closely with or government, but we will wait to have the same things to another country, because otherwise Kosovo is so free in the market, and regularly we are so simple in the letter documents, all these things, what are our requests for other country, because we have also a lot of import. And our balance about import and export is not good, but other country in this position are more good. And now we wait from other country to cooperate, especially with Bosnia, Serbia, Macedonia, and other country.
Thank you very much, dear panelists. We have already informed that it would be a very short mini debate, so I would like just briefly to conclude. So, based on the inputs that we have heard from our guests, from our panelists, this debate itself underscored several elements. Among the most important was the need to advance towards the regulatory alignment and deliver tangible results for the benefits of the businesses and citizens of the CEFTA region itself. We do also understand that this needs to be as quickly as possible and as efficiently as well as possible. And I also understood that we are all actors and players. We all have a role to achieve this ambition. So let's keep this good spirit, and let's continue to act together and champion on this shared value and goal that we have, hopefully reaching this objective in the next 2-3 years, as you highlighted to this session. Thank you very much as well to the audience for your inputs that you provided. Let's continue to work together, closely together, to reach this objective. Please join me in thanking our panelists for their valuable contributions and energetic discussions that we had, though we had different perspectives, but these enriched the panel. Thank you.
Thank you for a stimulating and insightful debate. We now move to our next panel of the day. This session focuses on the critical topic of coordination among our development partners to effectively implement policy and institutional changes in CEFTA. The title of the panel is Change Through Synergy, Partners in Support of Reforms. The goal here is to explore how multiple donors can work in concert, avoiding silliness and ensuring assistance is aligned with CEFTA priorities. Our moderator for this roundtable is Tanja Bošković, head of the project Regio Trade GIZ. Tanja, please join us on the stage.
Good afternoon, everyone. Let me double check whether we have everyone from the panel, because as you see, they're changing the plan to start earlier to keep you still awake and with us for the, I would say, grand finale of the conference. But let's make sure that we have everyone in the room. I see Beate joining just now, so Swiss colleagues is here, but yeah, I'm not sure whether everyone or we make break. Only RCC. So we go. Okay. So as I said, thank you for skipping coffee, because we promise we will have energized panel to keep you awake. And I hope we will manage to have it as efficient as possible. We know there was a full day of the program today. So you already heard my name, program leader at GIZ, and wearing two hats today, I would say. Moderator, but also one of the panelists. And I promise I will speak just as one, not as two people, or just as one person in the panel. So I know it's a late hour and this is the moment of truth of every conference, but I hope you are still feeling enough inspired, enough energized for the next 45 or already 43 minutes to be specific. And what I can promise is like fast, concrete, practical, and also no long speeches, no abstract debates. It's really just real coordination, real examples, real impact for the session going ahead. So I would say that given that we have a full day of the program starting from this morning, from geopolitics, EU integration, trade facilitation, AI even, now is the time to bring it all together. Because none of reforms happen in isolation. They need coordination, they need alignment, and hopefully everyone pulling in the same direction. So that's the reason we have all the key actors who are supporting us to, let's say, turn CEFTA policies into CEFTA practices, to help us see how we can drive synergies even better and achieve far more together than some of, let's say, individual efforts. So let's pull back the curtain and meet the people behind the programs and organizations. Please join me in welcoming our exceptional panelists. So Ms. Maja Hadžiska-Trendafilova, Director of RESPA, Regional Learning Network and Building Skills and Public Sector Capabilities. Thank you so much for joining us on this occasion. Then Denise Penelo-Rial from UNCTAD, our global expert house behind the trade policy rules, also supporting CEFTA. Thank you for joining, Denise. Welcome. David Pigatsky, General Secretary, Chamber Investment Forum. Thank you as well for joining us. Welcome. Beate Katja Elzesar, Head of Cooperation at Embassy of Switzerland, the donor of the panel, the real donor of the panel, bringing long-term commitment to the regional agenda and regional integration and trade policy agenda. Thank you so much for being with us here today. So let's now zoom into operational level and invite our dear Irfan Lipovica, Director of Kosovo Accreditation. Reforms can only happen when institutions implement them with technical capacities and credibility. That's why it's important we have also institutions joining us here on the panel. It was also planned to have our dear colleague from RCC, and he will come, he will join us. We just wanted also to make sure that we have also bringing broader, let's say, perspective, regional perspective that frames cooperation with CEFTA. But now I guess to be efficient, to make this panel as dynamic, as efficient as possible, I hope we can already start. And I would, let's say, ground this conversation with one very simple question. Asking all of you, actually, how does your organization, and you particularly, supporting CEFTA or regional trade policy and CEFTA agenda? Or put it really simply, in other words, what do you actually do? And what did you achieve in this year of CEFTA work? So what you did for CEFTA or in CEFTA? And I would like, because 7 of us on the panel, very limited time all together, that we try to be up to 2 minutes each, because we have a lot to unpack for this session. So I can also, because being one of the panelists here, it's also, I can set the scene and start from the GIZ perspective, like using discretionary power of being both moderator and panelist, but rather to set the scene as we've been working with all of you over the years in different roles. So maybe just briefly to show how we are actually putting things together and how we cooperated over the years, I will just maybe quickly highlight what we from the GIZ side, on behalf of German government and European Commission, we are doing to support CEFTA since early days and across full spectrum of trade-related reforms. So under the new EU for Trade project recently launched with the support of European Commission and Regio Trade with the German government. We are actually working with all of you in a different, let's say, ways to really try not only to support developing of policies, but also bringing, let's say, insights from different perspectives, and then at the end trying to make the benefits materialize on the ground where they matter the most. So from the, let's say, across the area, from trade facilitation, where we heard already a lot from this morning, from working hand in hand with our dear colleagues for years, from customs administration side to other governmental agency side, from coordinated, harmonized risk management to intra-agency alignment, joint work, joint controls, joint actions, from agro-food to industrial goods, from e-commerce, postal services, tourism, and more nowadays into transport modernization, bringing in-freight solutions into the trade environment. And in all of those areas, we work with all of you, like in CEFTA, as I said, from highs and lows of regional dynamics. With UNCTAD, we work together in a joint undertaking for years within the same project together to identify and accommodate most pressing, I would say, non-tariff measures across CEFTA. With RESPA, we'll be working even more and more intensively in implementing Single Market Academy launch 2 weeks ago. And mentioning Single Market Academy, then it's a great moment to also say how directly we would support accreditation body and the other quality infrastructure institutions, providing a very structured but also sustainable approach to align with the single market rules, not only on paper, but also in practice. Then also with our dear Swiss colleagues, we worked together this year to complement each other to improve capacities of chair in office for this year. Then also with private sector, whatever we do, we integrate business from designing to implementing, and that's going to be the way forward. And of course, RCC is always there to, for the overall alignment in all different areas, but now more and more in digitalization efforts. So I would say a lot achieved this year, but there is even much more we can unlock together. So let's hear from you. And I would now join you here, but before as I said, maybe starting with Maya, actually CEFTA is moving towards more and more complex reforms with single market alignment, with the regulatory alignment, and where do you see the biggest opportunity to strengthen institutional capacities and really support implementation of this quite ambitious regional undertaking? So I will join here.
Many thanks, Tanya, and very good late afternoon from my side. Really happy to be contributing to this rejuvenated CEFTA week, and I'm also joining all my previous colleagues in, of course, heartfelt congrats to Vera for taking the helm at CEFTA Secretariat, and of course this new energy impetus is really felt also in this week's activities as well. So the CEFTA week did, of course, we heard of rather productive deliverables, but it also, the conference opened really important cross-cutting issues, such as even the current panel, which focuses on synergizing, on streamlining efforts towards, of course, maximized impact. From the perspective of RESPA, the organization that I lead, our mandate is actually grounded in advancing public governance reforms by leveraging on regional cooperation, by leveraging on the regional approach. So in our work via really rich, let's say, set of instruments, we are supporting peer exchange and learning between civil servants from the region of Western Balkans, soon also Eastern Partnership, as well as with their peers in member states. And when I speak about learning, this goes beyond sort of traditional training. We are speaking about also practice-oriented, immersive training, training that also develops transversal skill. So on a broad, let's say, in very broad lines, our contribution to the trade agenda, common regional market, CEFTA agenda, stems from this work on supporting human capital in the public sector, in terms of us supporting civil service reforms, supporting policy coordination, supporting better regulation and simplification agenda, which is now also the name of the game in the EU, which of course has crucial implications for the private sector, but also our work in terms of building capacities of the public sector for digitization, as well as the EU accession process. Because also CEFTA's work when it comes to frictionless trade, paperless trade, seamless trade, trade transport facilitation, it hinges on empowered civil servants, on network, on capacitated civil servants. So maybe I'll stop it here at the general. Of course, I would also want to bring it some concrete illustrations. For instance, in the past period, we've been honored in the on the side of RESPA to undertake a regional capacity building and mobility scheme of a cohort of 50 civil servants, which will now be, of course, upgraded and expanded, that had we had, of course, contributed to their capacity building, but also they had job shadowing, so symbolically working in the regional organization, in CEFTA, in transport, in RCC, and so on. So this is an initiative that we are going to continue. A lot of our activities, of course, touch upon common regional market, gradual integration. Many of our programs have strengths on single market. We are working in the area, as I said, of digitization, advancing skills on interoperability, on trust services. We've even ventured in terms of national interoperability academy. So this was just to give a flavor, and of course, in the second intervention, so I will give some reflection as to how we can take it further and what can be also some concrete avenues forward. So thank you.
So much for also highlighting this, I would say, like to bridge ambitions with capacities, really, for all the work that you are doing. And I would say it go much beyond closing chapters, EU integration, ticking the box, but really building institutional muscle at home. This is what is like precondition for all what we are aiming to achieve together. Thank you so much. So now let's say, Denise, evidence, I would say, drives action. And UNCTAD is the global backbone of the evidence-based policy making. What are the contributions you are making to support and advance reform processes in CEFTA and your experience directly to support CEFTA institutions and parties in that regard?
Thank you, Tanya. Very good afternoon to everybody. I'm very happy to be here. I represent UNCTAD, which is the United Nations agency specialized for trade and development. So I'm very happy to present the contribution we are making to CEFTA reforms under the EU for Business project, financed by the European Commission. The objective of this project globally is to resolve and to prevent trade disputes, to reduce trade cost and transparency in general. So we have several areas of which we have been working. And for example, one is AP7, the dispute settlement mechanism. And we congratulate the parties for achieving that agreement. We have been supporting the negotiations, providing legal advice, capacity building through a number of negotiating rounds, like around 15. So it was a great achievement on the parties agreeing, achieving that agreement. After the adoption, we provided the secondary legislation. So this is like 60 plus documents and templates that will be used and necessary for the processing, for the process of the claims. We developed a test version of a digital system that will be able to handle the claims, and this was done in cooperation, very close cooperation with WTO. So it is very similar to the DORA system for those who know it. It is the tool that is used for handling the trade disputes globally. So CEFTA has a very modern dispute settlement at the moment, with aligning with international practices. Now, the AP7 has not entered into force yet, but now we have the MABD. We have also worked in this area. The last years we have discussed very closely with every party and the Secretariat to revitalize the use of the tool. This is a very central tool for CEFTA, for resolving and addressing the trade obstacles that come up every day. And recently, just last month, we had the training session with the updated system. we discussed, this was made with the agreement of all the parties, so we discussed with each of them the functionalities that they would like to be seen, that they need, that reflects the needs of the parties and the Secretariat at the same time in different roles. So it includes, for example, not only the NTM categories, but we also included the procedural obstacles which align with AP5. And we also included a way to claim, raise claims on services, which include AP6. So these two additional protocols are also included now formally in MABD. This will be launched now during these days, as I said. The training has been done only a couple of weeks ago. Now, MABD, there's only one account per party. Companies do not have access to MABD. They cannot raise claims in MABD. So what do they do? So we worked also with the private sector through workshops and seminars and discussions. Throughout this time, in every party, we developed a strategy to enhance the channels of communication that are presently in every of the different parties, but also how to enhance them and how to bring transparency and trust and more efficiency and accountability in this process. So we did the institutional analysis, and the strategy is there, it's presented. The implementation falls beyond our project. We are discussing with other organizations to see how this can be implemented, because it's quite detailed, the planning that we have developed. And then lastly, so this is a complex project, right? But not least, we also did regulatory mapping. So for the first time, this goes beyond CEFTA. For the first time, the CEFTA parties are included in the TRAINS database. UNCTAD has this database, it's TRAINS, you can look it up in the web. It has information on NTMs from more than 150 countries and economies around the world. So applying the same methodology, a very comprehensive and detailed data collection on regulations that affect trade in goods is done, and all the CEFTA parties are included. So this is now published, and we hope we can continue training the public institutions on how to update this data regularly to keep it into the database. So I believe these are ways that strengthen the cooperation, the regional integration in CEFTA, bring it closer also to you market, and enhance transparency.
Thank you so much for also highlighting this very important aspect of your work you are doing in CEFTA with the institutions and CEFTA parties in general. And I would say reforms only matters when they are felt by business, and those databases and the collection of, let's say, insights and feedback and cases are the one really showing how really the region progressing in improving the environment for trade. And there, I think, David, I guess the proof of all the reforms is really in a business feedback. And I would say private sector is the ultimate stress test of CEFTA reforms. So maybe a question to you is like, what did business involvement make as a difference in CEFTA context and in CEFTA work? And what is the contribution of Chamber Investment Forum into the process?
Thank you very much, first of all, to be here and to have the opportunity to speak here today. And I have to say, I really like this new CEFTA energy, you know, just skip it and be fast. It's very good. I really like it. As the regional business association for all 6 companies, we're working closely with CEFTA. We improve trade, increase transparency, and remove barriers, of course. We are responsible actually for 350,000 companies for the whole Western Balkans. Together with CEFTA, we are creating a simple tool for companies to report trade obstacles. This helps businesses share problems and gives CEFTA the data for better policies. We also inform companies about CEFTA reforms through presentations and info sessions, of course. Our supplier development program contact companies in the region, support services and practical tools. Soon we will improve our regional platform for training in the Western Balkans, or exporting into the EU can easily access updated information. Together with CEFTA, we also support export promotion and help businesses in rural areas benefit from regional trade opportunities.
Quite ambitious, let's say, areas of
Yes.
your involvement, and it's very important, yeah, that business is also in the role of actively co-create, not only observe, comment, and really react to reforms, but really actively support and create as well, co-create the processes and reforms. So thank you so much for now. Beate, so Switzerland is the long-standing committed partner to the regional integration agenda. How is the classical traditional aid really support regional trade policy and CEFTA in particular? And where do you see the strongest leverage for donor support?
Thank you very much. Thank you for inviting me and also for giving me the floor in this panel. I represent a classic donor in international cooperation. So our programs are covering, of course, topics in the fields of social services, in governance, but of course also in economic development. And if you are wondering, so what is Switzerland exactly doing in this mix here? Our cooperation programs follow, of course, the expressed will of our partner governments. And in this case, this is EU accession, and it is also the expressed will, at least on paper, to have a stronger regional economic integration. Our support in this field of economic development has two angles. One is capacity building and technical assistance, which is focusing that the CEFTA parties can actually implement modern trade rules. And in our case, that means we go also directly to the private sector. So there we have projects, for example, to have private sector development by fostering business-friendly environments. And more, this means also supporting the private sector to meeting EU regulations and ESG standards. And as we have heard, there are many, many different offers on the table for the private sector, and still, we have heard that in the previous panel, private sector very often does not really know, about what is new, what are the regulations, what needs to be done. So with our projects, we are not trying just to have one other offer, but also linking up to existing offers, be it by governments or be it by other development partners. Now, the second angle in which we have a link to CEFTA is a governance perspective on multilateral institutions in the larger sense. So this is the reason why we are supporting, for example, RCC. But we also chose to support CEFTA this year in form of a support to the chairmanship. We were very positive about the change in CEFTA in 2024. We felt that this is an opportunity, that things will get moving and that more decisions will be taken. And we also wanted to support Kosovo in its first chairmanship in this function. So, and I would like to mention one important element, and that is the coordination. You mentioned it before. We tried not to just, let's say, race in and do something, but we were also exploring first, so who is actually supporting CEFTA and what can we do without overdoing it? Because ultimately, CEFTA is the interest of the involved governments. So our expectation is also that governments bring up the necessary support for the structures. In this specific case, we felt it is important to collaborate with Kosovo as the chair, and I believe that it was a useful endeavor, also in collaboration and coordination with the colleagues. Thank you.
Thank you so much for framing it very clearly and already giving also, let's say, to feed into Fatmir's position and RCC position, mentioning this coordination as a crucial aspect of the work and, let's say, exchange we have to keep regularly. So from RCC perspective, being like responsible coordinator of the overall common regional market agenda, and not only as an implementer, but rather also to oversee and try to keep the puzzle or the full picture aligned across the economies. Where do you see the critical role of coordinated actions in the region with regard to CEFTA reform implementation, but also in general for the regional implementation of regional integration agenda?
Thank you very much, Tanya. It's my pleasure. It feels like being home, although I moved to RCC Sarajevo a couple of months ago. I will get directly to your question. It's the Common Regional Action Plan, the 25-28. It's an illustration how regional organizations coordinated and worked together to design a unique, well-coordinated plan in order to implement it, the CRM for next 4 years. And all the donors are chipping in with their expertise, technical assistance. Some are doing in a competitive manner. I will come later to it, which there is room for improvement. But also it's a competition between donors because they are also aiming for success and results, and we know this. People sitting here at GIZ, European Commission, SDC, they all know they want their contribution, but also attribution to the success. When SEPA is successful, everyone wants to claim its success that we did it. But this time World Bank is saying that we did it. It is a good example how we coordinated this actually when we come to synergy and complementarity with the World Bank, while we provided our added value, the convening power of the Western Balkan economies to share exchanges and lessons learned between each other. And those who were ahead, like Montenegro, Albania, North Macedonia, were teaching or showing their law and specific legislation which has to be acquis aligned for Serbia, Kosovo, and Bosnia. Left, yes, thank you. And while the World Bank was working individually with the economies to fulfill the criteria in order to become SEPA members. Another good example of donor coordination is working with GIZ, I have to stress here, through the technical assistance in developing the digital innovation hubs that we started with them as RCC, but then it was taken over by their project and they became fully European digital innovation hubs, which raised up to 9 million euro. SDC is supporting also quite fairly. I have to stress out that the cooperation with Western Balkan 6 CIF here, especially with CEFTA, they are responsible for pillars 1, 2, 3, like horizontal trade, custom services and goods, while we as RCC, we have the convening power of the Western Balkan economies. We have also added value of having lots of technical and coordination expertise when it comes to human capital development, the area which we are responsible, the attracting the FDIs, business enabling environment, and the last one is the digital transformation, working on digital wallet, cybersecurity, and digital connectivity and roaming. So all these areas are complementary to each other. There are some lessons learned already. I'm recently new, but I asked some colleagues like what could be like some lessons learned that we can share with the audience.
Maybe we discuss lessons learned in the next round because we have also to see how we even improve in the next chairmanship year, but also in the years to come, to see what we can learn from the existing experiences and let's say, work we do to make it even better and improved in the year ahead, if you don't mind.
Thank you. I couldn't agree more with you.
Thank you so much. And thanks for mentioning, yes, the perfect coordination we have now with this Digital Innovation Hub is one example where we now within the project advancing that to the next level with the EU EDIC-like network, bringing it closer now to the EU single market of those, let's say, innovation hubs there. So that was just as a showcase how things should work smoothly. Now, finally, zooming into the operational level and capacity of institution, who is at the end making the reforms real. So from the perspective of accreditation, as one of the pillars we heard so much today about certification, being from the public side, being from the business side, but it's not that everyone understands what is behind this certification undertaking. There are so many actors and then much technical work to be done there, and accreditation is one of the key pillars in this overall infrastructure. So, Irfan, what would you say that accreditation body and institutions like yours, where they are crucially need stronger and maybe better coordination of donors, players, organization to make this alignment to the single market happening sooner and not only on paper, but crucially really in practice?
Greetings to everyone. It is my pleasure to contribute to today's discussion on the topic of how better synergy among development partners can accelerate the reforms our region really needs. As a director of accreditation, as an officer of Ministry of Industry, Entrepreneurship and Trade of the government of Kosovo, coming from the accreditation, coming from a technical complex ecosystem of quality infrastructure, I think better coordination among partners in supporting the reforms, it's not just helpful, but it is essential. As we know, quality infrastructure accreditation and conformity assessment are at the heart of CEFTA's agenda. Therefore, from Kosovo's side and from the ecosystem of quality infrastructure, I think strengthening these systems is fundamental in implement trade agreements, increasing trust in our exported products, and therefore advancing toward the EU single market. These reforms, as I said, are not easy or complex, and therefore they require technical expertise, sustained institutional support, and alignment with EU standards. Therefore, no single donor can deliver this alone. Therefore, progress depends on only on coordinated actions. We have seen in the past, from the first hand, how effective such synergy can be in the recent years of support from the several development partners supporting different parts of quality infrastructure, starting from laboratory upgrades, going to the increasing capacities of assessors of the accreditation system. When these efforts were well coordinated, duplication was avoided, resources were optimized, and our institutions moved forward faster and more confidently. But when coordination was weaker, we faced overlaps on one side and gaps on another. This is why structured cooperation is really not a theoretical goal, but it is a practical necessity. Having those in mind from our perspective, three things are especially important to be in the mind of developing partners. First, aligning donor programs well with the CEFTA's priorities, CRM2 priorities, growth plan agenda. I'm mentioning these three current main important agendas. This will ensure that the support is not fragmented but contributes to a shared vision, whether in regulatory approximation, digitalization of trade procedures, or improvements in the quality infrastructure ecosystem. The second is joint planning and information sharing among partners. This will allow us to map needs more accurately. For example, accreditation reforms require long-term development of human resources, and this is only possible when donors understand each other's perspective. The third is we need flexibility to pool resources where it makes sense. especially in those technical areas where regional solutions may be more efficient than national ones. And I would like at the end to highlight that the support we receive is not abstract. It results in real improvements for businesses, exporters, and consumers. When our accreditation system becomes stronger and aligned with European standards, our products move more easily across borders. SMEs face few barriers, and the region becomes more competitive and interconnected. In closing, Kosovo remains fully committed to CEFTA's reform agenda and to work hand in hand with all our partners with clearer coordination and smarter use of resources and a shared focus on tangible outcomes. We can ensure that every euro invested in these reforms delivers maximum impact, bringing our region closer to EU and unlocking new opportunities for economic development.
Thank you so much. You already addressed all the questions we may have for the session. So thank you for being so efficient. But now we maybe try to sharpen focus with the other panelists, quick, clear, and actionable as possible, with a focus what is actually the main let's say, goal of the session, to try to still think about the gaps, overlaps, or missing links we have to fix and we have to improve going forward, starting already from next month of next chairmanship, concretely about CEFTA, but it applies also to all the other areas. So maybe I put a question and you take it as you wish, just to make it also a bit more efficient, not to repeat it every time. In principle, how you see from your experience, lessons learned that Fatmir just mentioned, and all your perspective, how we can really close the gaps that exist at the moment, how we can deal with these coordination challenges, being so many, let's say, actors, at the end with the same ultimate goal, but also individually doing their ways. But Beate also mentioned different private sector support initiative projects. At the end, we also felt that business are not fully satisfied with the level of support and information they are having. What we can do better, and how we can really improve those missing links or fill the gaps to be even more efficient and more supporting the regional agenda going forward. So who wants to start first? Maybe Maya, you again.
Very, very brief in the interest of time. I will really actually just build on what Irfan was saying around quality management infrastructure, and Tanya, also what you mentioned. The first point I'd like to make will be around the Single Market Academy, and hopefully also RESPA's future contribution, because I think that it can be a great contribution to the overall growth trajectory of the region. It goes beyond trade, and we all need to recall why we are doing this. It was mentioned at the start, we are talking about convergence. So this is a great avenue and relevance for CEFTA going forward. This is around the SMA. The second, also CEFTA has a donor coordination mechanism, so all of us contributing to it is very beneficial. For instance, RESPA has an on-demand technical assistance instrument, so it's great that we align, especially if some of the administrations request support which is relevant for the economic files or trade areas. And then also to announce that, of course, we also very soon look forward to concluding an MOU with CEFTA that will frame our cooperation efforts, especially when it comes to capacity building also for the CEFTA structures. So my last point relates on ownership. We really need national ownership when it comes to donor coordination. And also RCC was saying that sometimes it's a complex task to align the offer. So we really need strong national ownership to maximize all the opportunities. Thank you.
Thank you for being clear and very to the point. Thank you so much. David, maybe where you feel that maybe business involvement is still underused, or what could be done even better going forward?
Thank you for the question again. I think we need to communicate. Now it sounds a little bit old school, but without communication we can do nothing, to be honest. This old private-public dialogue, we have to do it again and again and again. because as you mentioned now, not everybody, not every company is really satisfied to getting information. Of course, we have to do it all together, the Chamber Investment Forum, RCC, or CEFTA. But we need, I really waiting now for the next week. We have the meeting by the RCC is organized in 12th of December or 11th of December, I think. I really wait to see forward what can we do to synchronize and to get more impact for the companies in the Western Balkans, to help them to export, but not just to export to the EU, for example, or for some other region of the world, also to working still together in the Western Balkans, because I really think that it's really an unused potential. And of course, we have also some very highlights. What I had written here, our project by the Kiev, what is financed by the KfW Bank, the RCF, Regional Challenge Fund, more than 80 millions, more than 1,500 companies was involved, more than 40 technical schools involved. We have also really some highlights. It's not seems like that is not done nothing, you know. But we have to keep really push forward and to come together. They really come together. Because the concurrence is not sleeping, the Chinese are coming.
Oh, yes, I do agree. Communication is important, even though good results are the best communicator and the best promotion we can all have. Once you have results that materialize on the field and people or business feel it, then it's easy to communicate or easier to communicate. Thank you so much for that. Beate, maybe you already mentioned we have a great way to coordinate and complement what is done, what should be done, how we can really use resources most efficiently. But any additional points you want to also maybe highlight, how to use it or make it most efficiently?
Well, it has been said before, I believe that donor coordination done through a government is central in this. Not only out of principle, but also because trade is a very dynamic field, and in order for donors to reflect in their work the, let's say, most recent developments, you need to know what exactly the administration wants to do. So that is the first point, and the second point is then on the private sector side. Don't leave the private sector alone in this. Try to, what you said, communicate better, and as a donor we can also support exactly this communication and bring in a systemic way private sector actors together, for example, with business services. Support services are essential in this whole process in order for companies to adapt and to learn and to comply with regulations.
Thank you so much for that, putting it very clearly. Maybe Fatmir, you want now to also add to those from the lessons learned?
Thank you very much, Tanya. Actually, I have three areas of lessons learned. The first one is coordination starts early, at the design phase, at the concept node phase. And once donors, one or two, agree in a concept together with the governments and the implementer, potential implementer, then the others should join this train. Regardless if they are higher or bigger in amount, the previous ones, they put energy and resources into designing this, and the others can only support this locomotive only to run faster. We often see cases when a larger donor comes in, then it starts to derail the trend to send it towards their destinations. And this is, to me, wrong, because it has been planned well. Only if you do impact assessments or like midterm reviews and then you want to change the concept or the project, then so during implementation coordination it's already too late. Then you are only sharing information and exchanging when it comes to implementation, what we do now about the common regional market with the other regional organizations. So that is the first area. Second is use as much as possible local regional expertise. Yes, European expertise, key experts coming from various member states. The best combination is if you have someone from the region who has gone through the similar processes. We have Croatia, we have Slovenia, but also countries in the region, they are in some processes far advanced from each other, and they can be mobilized. We have also accumulated a lot of technical knowledge and expertise in the region, which can be used vice versa among us, and the projects or donors know this, so they use. Sometimes we don't even need technical assistance, we just need the resources to be mobilized, and then the expertise is there, so simply. And keep on the loop the private sector and civil society always, because they are the best communicators of our work and results. We all fail in communication and showing our results because of the resources we put in our projects into communicating the results. You put so much into expertise and knowledge and to deliver, but you put very little resources into communication. And everyone is failing in communication, from European Commission, World Bank, OECD, all the organizations. We are not satisfied how we communicate our work and results. We daily fight for achievements and results. And then the best monitor of our work is the private sector who notices the loops and the backholes, and the civil society who communicates best with the citizens. So if they are early involved in our programming, they become the best communicators of our results.
Much, yeah, very clear points, like coordinate, 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 do on time before the mandate is strictly specified, do it regularly, and build on the local and regional expertise we have available within the context of CEFTA and the Western Balkans. Thank you so much. Denise, you want to add something from the global perspective and experiences?
Yes, thank you. Yes, I agree with what has been said. Setting the agenda first for CEFTA and for the parties is the beginning, is the first point. And then we participate in the donor coordination meetings when they are. So we do that. And then we are all part of a puzzle, ideally one puzzle. Some agencies have implementation capacity, others have funding capacity. Yeah. Others are more on the field, have offices on the field, are more global. So to utilize the special capacities that each has, we have, during the project, we implemented this very close collaboration with WTO, for example, ACWL, which is the Advisory Center for WTO law, also in Geneva. So those things were possible. We do have also the IT development within in-house. Asikura is also within UNCTAD. So those are capacities that are unique to one, and then the others have others that are also unique. So the art of communication and agreeing early enough is what's needed.
Clear. Thank you so much. Irfan, you feel to add a sentence?
I think it's very important that the donors follow the priorities that are already well defined in by now in the CRM2 and the EU growth plan. I think CRM2 which includes also the CEFTA priorities. Both programs have, in the way I was kind of involved in from the government in drafting of both programs. From our perspective, both programs were well coordinated with all the relevant stakeholders. So I trust on those priorities. The donors should follow the priorities if they will, I mean, with the positive aim of really having a structural approach toward improving the capacities. And I agree with my colleagues that there should be more communication, more donor coordination, either in the regional level or also at the country's economies level. Thank you.
Thank you. So now, one sentence.
I'd like to add something, and we have to be very careful about the local absorption capacity. We tend to overestimate, sometimes underestimate the absorption capacity of the institutions. And this is the key to the success of any project in the region, because people move. It is you have to work with a specific line institution, which at the time of designing phase, maybe it had potential for specific absorption, but then in the meantime, that capacity, that human capital has moved, and then you are then really in trouble with when it comes to your delivery, and it's already too late to redesign your project. There is no formula how to overcome this situation, and this is happening almost to every, let's say, department, institution in the region with a design of the projects, but still some good impact or some good analysis before starting of the projects when it comes to absorption is really needed.
Thank you. So as time is ticking, I think it's also time to easily and slowly wrap it up. But before I want to open the floor to the audience and give the floor to you, if anyone wants to share any feedback, insights, suggestions, anything you think would contribute to do our work even better in the future. No, I can understand. If no reactions from the audience, from the heroes of the day, I would say the most, the survivors of the program, a full day without even coffee break. So I guess I fully understand if no comments, but in case anyone anything, feel free. Yeah, Ralph, please. Maybe mobile, yeah.
Thank you very much. My name is Ralph Peters. I'm from UN Trade and Development. I'm a colleague working with Denise. And I prepared some questions for every session, but there was never the opportunity to speak from the floors. And now I gave up. I didn't prepare a question. But I just wanted to say that I find this an amazing day today, the different formats that you have chosen. So I would really like to congratulate CEFTA Secretariat. They have really organized it in an amazing way, the different formats in discussion, the session on the non-tariff measures, but also then the session moderated by Oliveira. I think it was really amazing, and I just take the opportunity now to say this, that I find it really great, and also the discussion that you have now with all the different stakeholders in supporting the CEFTA regional integration. Thank you.
Yeah, great that you had the chance to say and share your also positive words that's needed also to move it stronger even forward. Thank you, Ralph, so much. Anyone, anything? Also from the panelists? I guess we covered already everything we wanted for the late one, but David, I feel you want something to add.
Just really shortly. Let's try to organize some joint event calendar for all the institutions from the Western Balkan, but believe me, the guys who are leading projects or the institutions, we are killing ourselves with traveling, you know. We need to a little bit organize it more efficient. Yeah. And at the end of the day, it's also more efficient for the companies, you know.
Thank you. I think there is already on the table, and CEFTA will start also developing, coordinating much intensively already from the early next year. Even though calendar sounds like a static, we are very, very like driven by the need, by ad hoc request. Sometimes it's not easy to keep the calendar, let's say, predictable so much, but we can do our best.
Maybe it sounds stupid, but it's not stupid, believe me.
No, it's, yeah, we have to start from something, and then we see how we can make use of that. Thank you so much. So now, if we actually don't have anything to add, I can just like try to wrap it up and maybe highlight some key takeaways from the session, but also being the last panel of the day, like technical discussion panel, maybe a bit even a bit broader. So from the panel, I would say, yes, coordination is essential across institutions, across government, across donors, across regional organizations. So no discussion on that. Synergies, we know, drives more progress than all what we are doing individually. So it's always when every actors pull in the same direction, then we together can achieve far beyond what we can do individually. Because reform is never a solo act, we know that. And it's not only about fulfilling some obligations from the work plan, it's really rather going beyond any agenda or any given plan to be delivered. It's rather really building the region more competitive, more resilience, and more future ready. And I would say to get there, it takes a lot of factors, and I would say first one will be to, of course, reforms, bold reforms we all need in the region to make real successes, and regional cooperation grounded in political maturity, I would say even, and political trust above all. And I would always add also optimism, but not naive optimism. In the times like this, we don't need optimism as a gut feeling, optimism as emotion. We need optimism as decision. Decision to invest in people, decision to invest in institutions, decision to invest in long-term progress, or actually decision to stay the course and persist even when it takes courage. So I guess we can make that choice, us together, through our work we do, through every decision that follows. So judging from the commitment, judging from the energy and the expertise on the panel, we are ready. So thank you so much to the panelists, to everyone staying here in the room to the end. Thank you all. That's it.
Thank you, Tanya, and a sincere thank you to all of our value development partners for your commitment and insights on synergy. Ladies and gentlemen, our last session for today will focus on the OECD Economic Convergence Scoreboard for the Western Balkans, a new analytical tool designed to track how the region is progressing toward convergence with the EU and the OECD. Built upon more than 10 years of OECD policy assessments, the scoreboard helps policymakers identify the priority areas where targeted reforms can accelerate progress. It is my pleasure to invite to the podium Ms. Mariana Petrovic, team leader and senior policy analyst, who will present this important initiative.
Thank you very much for this very kind introduction, and let me thank CEFTA for Secretariat for inviting OECD to contribute to today's discussion. Good afternoon, everyone. I know that I have the honor to stand between you and the cocktail right now. So after all of these 3 days of marathon, so I will try to make it worthwhile of your time. So as mentioned, my name is Mariana Petrovic, and I work at the Southeast Europe Regional Program at the Organization for Cooperation and Economic Development headquarters in Paris. And we have been working with the Western Balkan economies for decades now, with strong focus on competitiveness and also private sector development. And with this long-standing engagement, we learned a great deal about region's strengths, but also the structural obstacles to faster growth. So, building on this experience and trying to address what our RCC colleagues and others have raised during this panel, this presentation is actually an initiative to also share our work with you and talk a bit more about this. And today I would like to present to you our new tool, but the technology is not following my lead. Thank you so much. Called the Economic Convergence Scoreboard. So this is a new analytical tool we made with a very simple purpose. It was to move behind assessing just the policy design in Western Balkan economies and to ask whether these reforms that are put in place are really developing better outcomes both for citizens and businesses in these economies. So the idea of the scoreboard is to watch real-world progress and to highlight where reforms are working, as I said, where the bottlenecks persist, and also how quickly these economies are actually converging with the EU. So the idea is for it to serve to policymakers in the Western Balkans, to offer them with a transparent and also comparable evidence base to track the outcomes more effectively. And then also the tool should also be useful to our colleagues at the EU and EU member states and institutions, because it provides really a clear overview of implementation on the ground, and its idea is also to help better target EU support, whether to EPA programs, WBIF, or other financial or non-financial support. So the scoreboard also complements the assessment and our work that we have been conducting regularly. One of it is assessment on the called competitiveness outlook that some of you might be familiar with, where we look at 15 different policies that are conducive to improving competitiveness of these economies. And then the second one is SME Policy Index, where we really focus on the policies and policy cycles targeting small and medium enterprises. But these two assessments really assess the quality of policy design, to what extent these policies are implemented, and then how they are monitored and evaluated, and to what extent this is then included in the new policy cycle. Well, the scoreboard really shows whether these policies are delivering intended results. So it really focuses on the impact rather than the ambition. And before we look at the results quickly, I would really like to just for you to understand what was the rationale behind developing these tools. And as it was mentioned previously, we all witnessed 2 decades of reform efforts among Western Balkan economies. And the progress actually was relatively limited in narrowing the gap in GDP per capita with the EU and OECD countries. Of course, we have seen some steady growth, and GDP per capita has increased around 120% since the Thessaloniki summit in 2003. But these two graphs also shows that this faster growth has not resulted in a very high level of convergence. So the convergence did happen, and if you look at the left graph at the end, you can see that the GDP per capita rose from 25% of the EU and OECD levels in 2003 to about 41% in 2024. However, the pace of this convergence is too slow, and according to our calculations, at the current growth rates, full convergence will only be met around 2074 with the EU peers. So this slow trajectory also highlights the need to reassess the region's economic model. So growth is currently really still overly driven by consumption. Private investments remain insufficient for the region to grow. Productivity is still constrained by years of underinvestment, but also institutional weaknesses and demographic pressures. And this is exactly why the scoreboard is needed, to help us identify where the structural bottlenecks lie behind this slow progress. So this is a very, very kind of simplified overview of the region's performance. We look at 5 different clusters, and you cannot see the 5th one, but there is infrastructure and connectivity, skills, business environment, this is the one that's missing down there, greening, and digital transformation. And the indicators, there are 35 indicators we look at. These are the indicators that they were chosen based on an economic relevance, but also the availability across all Western Balkan economies. And on this visual, you kind of see the simplified results of how a region is doing. The blue shape shows where they are, knowing that the outer edge actually would represent the full convergence with the EU average. And if you look at the different representation, you can see in the slide that the region's aggregate convergence with the EU has improved, but very little over the past decade. So you don't see it down, but the previous, the black dot is where it stands before, and the green one is where it is today. So you can actually see that the progress has been very little progress has been made, but this also does not mean that there is no progress whatsoever. It means that the region has grown at roughly the same pace as the EU. So the relative gap has barely changed. And this also kind of hides, to some extent, important differences among the region, because Kosovo has made substantial progress and improved in its aggregate convergence score by 12 percentage points, why Bosnia actually has moved 4 points further away from the EU over the past decade. And I will just show you another slide. So this is what we have. We call this scoreboard cards. We have them for the cluster on business environment, and this is the cluster that actually the region has performed the best out of all 5 clusters. And we have actually these type of scorecards for each of the economies and for each of the clusters. So this is something you can also see in the scoreboard. So for the sake of time, this is only a snapshot. For the sake of time, I won't go into the details on one specific indicators, and I would like to invite you to actually either scan the code here, go on our website, and I have also left this type of brochures at the door, at the exit, to get them to learn a bit more. And because in the publication, we really go much deeper into each cluster, each of the economies, and each indicator. So I will invite you to explore these results as they're available online. And maybe to close, I would like to stress just one point that was also raised by Professor Miščević this morning, and that is that the convergence with the EU peers will not happen on its own, and it will require deliberate, targeted, and coordinated reform efforts. And we really hope that Scoreboard will give us all the evidence to focus these efforts where they will have the much biggest impact, and that used well, it can really help these countries to shift into higher and more sustainable growth, and hopefully bring the Western Balkans closer to the EU, not in 70 years, but if possible within this generation. So thank you very much, and I'm happy to discuss it further during the cocktail.
Thank you, Ms. Petrovic, for a truly enriching presentation. Ladies and gentlemen, that concludes the official agenda for the CEFTA Week 2025 conference. I now invite Ms. Olivera Tseni Bardici on behalf of CEFTA Secretariat on stage to conclude today's conference.
Thank you very much to all of you who stayed till the end with us. So on behalf of the CEFTA Secretariat, I would like to sincerely thank all of you present here today, as well as the ministers, panelists, contributors, and partner organizations for their valuable insights and contributions, as well as their strong engagement. Not only during today's discussions, but as well in helping and supporting the organization of this event today. Throughout our discussions today, we had one message which was very clear. Regional convergence matters. It is essential for competitiveness, it is essential for growth and delivering tangible benefits and results to the businesses and people across CEFTA region. We would like to underline ministers' statements that political commitment must go hand in hand with technical progress. Harmonizing these two is a key in accelerating the reforms that have been already agreed in CEFTA. Now, of course, our priority remains the implementation of these reforms and agreements, some kind of turning the frameworks into the concrete outcomes. In summary, our next steps are very simple. To measure what matters, deliver what has been agreed, digitalize what is still on paper base, recognize wherever trust has been justified, involve all relevant stakeholders throughout the processes, and coordinate the support around a dedicated and clear single plan. Let us all carry forward the moment of this week and continue transforming commitments into results. Thank you all very much once again for your dedication and cooperation. We would like to wish you all safe travels back home and see you next year in the CEFTA Week conference. Thank you very much.
competitive global economy. And lowering
There is a reception as well tonight. Thank you very much to the colleagues who have flagged this now. So let's all go together to the reception. Thank you very much.
Made a difference. SEED Plus stands for Systematic Exchange of Electronic Data. The SEED Plus action is fully funded by the European Union and implemented by the CEFTA Secretariat and the Italian Excise, Customs, and Monopolies Agency. The main purpose is to develop and implement the SEED Plus IT systems, supporting the provisions and actions agreed upon in the CEFTA agreements and protocols. SEED Plus enables systematic data and documents exchanged between CEFTA stakeholders, while harmonizing legal and regulatory requirements among those stakeholders and aligning them with the EU. SEED Plus covers a variety of sectors: customs, veterinary, phytosanitary, pharmaceutical, and market surveillance. Supporting digitalization in these areas eases transport and trade while making the work of economic operators more efficient. There are various benefits of SEED Plus action: shortening of the wait times at crossing points, simplification of inspection, reduction of formalities, reduction of costs, paperless trade. Those benefits are followed by achievements such as Achievement 1. CEFTA Cloud Data Center acquired, hosting CEFTA database and services. Achievement 2. SEED Plus was instrumental in the implementation of the Green Corridors Initiative during the COVID-19 pandemic. This was done by sending pre-arrival information on consignments of essential goods in advance to all agencies: customs, phytosanitary, and veterinary and food inspections. In return, the agencies were able to prepare and give those consignments priority passage. Achievement 3. To support activities on improving the risk management in CEFTA, SEED Plus backed the piloting of several joint actions on empty trucks, tobacco, intellectual property rights, and wood packaging materials. Achievement 4. Through harmonization of certification across the region, CEFTA traces NT, supports data and certificate exchange in the phytosanitary, veterinary, and medical sectors. This includes rapid data exchange for non-compliant consignments. Achievement 5. CEFTA Transparency Pack, upgraded through SEED Plus, increases the transparency of trade and investment trends in CEFTA by facilitating availability and access to trade-related data. SEED Plus, through the digital transformation, encourages cooperation, facilitates